everywhere that I see. It's hood life. The block is hot. Cops all around and the guns is out. People on the ground, mothers crying out. And it is what it is. It's hood life. Baby girl all grown up. And she's bad as hell, thick shown up. And she's got an attitude, cause her baby daddy left her when her son was 2. Little brother locked, daddy not around, getting stressed out, trying to hold it down. Damn, look at her now, somebody said they seen her doing lap dances cross town. If you from the hood, say, you love living good, say, you rap your hood, say.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another week with Teresa's It Can Be Good in the Hood. And I just want to thank everybody who's been watching the program. I thank everybody for the calls, the feedback that I've been getting about the program. It's positive, and that's the point that I'm trying to make with this show, is that it can be good in the hood if everybody would just come together, unity in the community. We can do this. I mean, because everybody talk about the black neighborhoods, the Spanish neighborhoods, and we got a bad rep. And so I'm here this evening, every Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, trying to make a difference and trying to send another message, a positive message, that it can be good in the hood. And today, this evening, I have some special guests on the show, and we're going to be talking this evening about some of our neighborhoods and what we can do to make it good in our hood. So, without further delay, I'm going to introduce our guests. And the first guest I'm going to introduce is Mr. Khalid.
Yes, Khalid Maddox.
I can't say all that.
Okay, Khalid Maddox. Thank you for having me on your show. I've been operating in Springfield for the last few years as a social activist, urban social activist, among other things. I wear a number of different hats.
I see.
I'm also a journalist, an economic development advocate and whatnot in the brown and black communities. But the topic, I understand your topic tonight is young folks in the hood, and what can we do to to help them surmount the difficulties and the challenges they have in modern day society.
Okay. And next.
I'm Jose Saavedra. Thank you, Teresa, for having me on here. I'm honored to be able to share my experience with working with young people. I just moved actually in June to the Springfield area. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I was born in Puerto Rico. My mother's Puerto Rican, my father's Colombian, but at the age of 2, I ended up in the Maryland, D.C. area and grew up in all D.C. It showed me a lot, which I'm happy to bring here to Springfield to help work with the young people and really the community as a whole. I think, when it comes to kids, young people, no matter what, you're also talking about parents, you're talking about elders, you're talking about school systems, you're talking about the entire village. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. And now we have...
Hi, Teresa.
Hey.
I'm Leroy, as you know.
Yes, I know.
For the past few years, I've been doing a lot of construction, doing a lot of music, I've been trying to build up, my music with Ty, I've been trying to reach out to a lot of people, hopefully hit some of these neighborhoods and stuff like that, to try and get people to understand that the struggle is, not that bad to where you have to go out and, put yourself in harm's way, but I do want to say that change is always an option, you know. I've been living in Springfield for a long time. You know, I've been to different places, North Carolina, California, stuff like that. I've seen different scenes and stuff like that, and I've seen, you know, how hard it can be elsewhere. You know, so, you know, just seeing how things are here, you know, I can definitely relate to where a lot of people are coming from. You know, but we'll touch base more on that, you know, as we go along, you know. But I want to say, thanks for having me here.
I'm very interested in like your past life. Right now, you just said you're doing positive things, you're working.
Mhm.
But before the positive, can you tell us a little bit about the negative? Just a little bit about the negative.
Well, like, I spent a lot of time, you know, on corners and stuff like that, you know, hustling and, um, you know, fighting with, you know, other guys on the block, you know, trying to get, you know, that dollar, you know, to feed my family and, you know,
Could I ask you a question? I don't mean to interrupt you. Because I have a problem with young black men fighting each other. And it appears to me, and that's why I wanted you on this show, for other young black men, young Puerto Rican men that are fighting each other. We are a minority. And to see you as an example that when you was younger, maybe you did the same thing. I don't know. I can't speak for you, but I'll give you a chance to answer that. And hopefully that these young brothers, these young black men and Spanish men that are doing this can see that they can change. They don't have to fight each other. They don't have to kill each other. I mean, there is life out
I mean,
there.
you really don't, you know, there really is, there can be a change, you know, because, you know, like you said, I'm living proof of it, you know,
Yes.
like, I just think that if somebody was to actually go out and reach the kids with something more positive than, you know, and take something negative and turn it into a positive, you know, then maybe they'll, you know, uh, look at it, you know, and try to reverse, you know, and you know, try to bring themselves back into where they need to be in life, because you know, I've been there to where, you know, I was struggling and
Yeah.
fighting and feuding and,
Yeah.
you know, and beefing over stupid stuff. You know, I realized when I got a lot older, you know, I looked back at, you know, a lot of the guys I was beefing with, you know, I'm like, you know, I really never took time to get to know this person.
Right.
You know, and it was like, you know, you know, now it's like, okay, you know, I wasted all these years, you know, beefing with this person, and then, you know, this person is actually a good guy, you
Can
know, but
was
Wow,
that
that's
person
powerful.
you know,
black?
and yeah, you know, a lot of these guys were black, you
Yeah.
know, and a lot of these guys was Puerto Rican and
Yeah.
stuff, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, regardless of, you know, ethnicity,
Yeah.
or race, you know,
Right.
you know, there's always going to be a struggle.
Right.
There's always going to be violence and stuff like that, but it doesn't have to be like that. You know, the change has to come, because if it
Right.
doesn't, then our kids are going to come up in that.
Exactly.
And we don't want our kids to come up in something that we're going through. You know,
Right.
we're living through this so that way we can change it. You know, we're going through this so that they wouldn't have to.
Right.
You know, but they can change. You know, they have to focus on what they want in life. You know, their goals, you know, have to be set. You know, they have to be focused on it. You know, because if they're not really focused on it, you know, it's gonna be hard to reach there. You know, but it can be done. You know, it's always gonna be good in the hood. You know, if we all put our minds to it, there has to be a lot of unity.
So you right now are, I would call like you our leader now. You're trying to lead them, the young ones under you. Are you a father?
Yes. I have 3 kids. I have a daughter and 2 boys. you know, and they look up to me a lot. And, you know, the main thing that goes through my head is, you know, I don't want my kids to go through the things I went through, you know, especially my boys, you know, because it's very easy to get caught up in the streets, you know, especially with the cops, you know, the way they are with people in the city, and you know, all the shootings, the stabbings, and you know, I've been stabbed up before. You know, I've been shot multiple times. You know, you know, it's nothing fun. You know, you put your life in it, you know, and you might not make it out. You know, there's something that you're taking a gamble with. You know, but you know, I've changed for the better. You know, for my kids' sake, for my family's sake, for other people's family's sake, because I knew how I was. You know, I didn't like the fact that, you know, I was killing somebody of the same kind as me. You know, or you know, hurting other people's families and stuff like that. You know, it really bothers, you know, to see that people have negative thoughts, you know, that they live by, and want to just wake up with that feeling in their heart, you know, to where it just drives them to just want to do it every day.
What helped you change? Was it somebody? What what brought you to that change? What happened?
Well, I can honestly say, like, when I had my first son, you know, I really wanted to change, you know, but the streets was calling me, you know, and stuff like that. It really took me to understand that I was growing up, you know, and I started to see a lot of my close friends and family members start to die and getting murdered and stuff like that, you know, you know, made me have like a real different outlook on what needs to be done in my life.
Could I ask you one more question? Then I'm gonna let the other gentleman talk to you. Um, what about God? Did you seek God? Because that's the theme I use for this show, Second Chronicles 7:14. That God said if His people were called by His name. Did you call on God or?
Yes, I did, you know, because I had a lot of people telling me, you know, turn to God, you know, put all your faith in His hands, you know, let, you know, Him take care of everything, you know, and you know, just devote your life to Him, you know, and everything's gonna be good, you know, and that's what I did. I turned to God, and He made sure that I was good, you know.
Yeah, good in the hood.
Yep.
Thank you so much, and you look so good.
Thank you.
Because I remember when you was smaller, when you was, you know, out there on the block
Yep.
in the hood. And now to see you today as a positive role model, you know, and I just hope, I know that somebody watching this show gonna see you, because I haven't seen you in years.
Yeah, it's been years. It's been a while.
Somebody gonna see this show, and I hope it, you know, it touched somebody's heart where they see you have been changed, and
Yep.
they can too change. And now I'm gonna turn this to Mr. Kali.
Okay.
So you can explain what you can do.
Well, it's not so much what I can do as what we can do, what the men folk in our communities can do. I've lived in other communities, and in Atlanta, Georgia, for instance, the men there have a yearly march. I would say about 40% of the black men and some of the people in the brown community all come together. They start from one end of the city and they walk to the other end of the city, and they gather people as they go along. Not just for, and this was before the Million Man March, they were doing this. They want to stop the senseless, what we consider the senseless urban violence, young men killing each other over so-called drug territories, or someone had a jacket they wanted to take, or a pair of tennis shoes they wanted to take, or someone looked at them the wrong way, or wearing different colors, that type of thing. So the men got together, whether they were homeless, whether they were executive of a company, whether they were a pastor of a small storefront church, or whether they were one of the mega churches. Everyone got together, and they still do this to this day. And they came together, and when they started that tradition of that that Hungry Man's March, not the Million Man's March, but the Hungry Man's March, they saw a decrease in black-on-black youth crime, in that city, a significant drop. And did it stop all the crime? No. But it did significantly raise the question in the minds of us who lived in these neighborhoods, as opposed to what somebody who lived outside of the neighborhoods were concerned about, or what the newspapers were saying, or the sound bites or the news cuts were saying and whatnot. We started looking at ourselves among ourselves and said the solution comes from among us. We have to accept responsibility as men for what happens in our community to our young people. You may not be my son, but you are my son. You're part of the village. If something happens to you, it affects the village. So if you're to prosper, then I'm supposed to be supportive of you as an older man, as a man who has some previous experience. I'm supposed to watch your back, as you say, not let anything happen to you when I see you going towards a pitfall. I'm supposed to say, hey, why are you going that way? Correct you, or bring your attention to it. You make your decision. But many of our communities of black men around the country have failed to continue to do that or even realize it. I'm very concerned about the massive underclass of young black men, young adult black men who are in their late 20s and 30s, who are contributing to the part of that massive expansion of underdeveloped, when I say underdeveloped men, because when you are not properly prepared to participate in society with the skills or with the awareness, you become fearful. You seek comfort in those who in the same boat that you're in, and then you become a threat to society, and society becomes a threat to you, and that's where you have conflict. We really need to focus on saving our young men. By the way, the other part of the equation is, the flip side is that when the young men are being not rehabilitated, not being led away from self-destruction, our young women are being led to destruction. Because who's the balance? So women usually reflect off of what they see the men around them doing. And without the women in our community, women have carried us, the black woman in particular, and probably the brown woman also. But I know the black woman, has helped carry us through all kinds of trials and tribulations that we've undergone in this society. And today, myself, others who so-called, supposedly have made it, we have a responsibility not to make decisions for you, but to make sure those people who need some guidance and direction have an opportunity to make those proper decisions under the right conditions. Now you can lead a horse to the water, as you so to say. You can't make it drink, but you can doggone be sure that you can understand. You can make sure they understand that if you go this way, this is life. If you go that way, that's death or whatnot. Yeah. And usually, most people have common sense. At a certain point, they say, "Well, if I go that way, that's a no-win situation. Let me go this way," especially when I got somebody who want to help me along the way. Right. So that's what I do. I encourage other men my age, the baby boom generation, say, when you can, help another man. Bring one along. If they listen, they listen. If they don't, well, move on to the next one or whatnot. But we have an obligation before ourselves and before our God, or however we want to define God. We have an obligation We have a social responsibility to contribute that way in whatever way we can, whether it's our son, whether it's our neighbor's son, whether it's our nephews, whether it's your friend's nephew, even your enemy's son or nephew, whatnot, because we have an obligation to save that which is going to continue us.
You're right. I agree. Do you have any comment on what he said?
You know, when Khalid speaks, I listen. I mean, he's actually, I've been working with him for about a month and a half now on bringing opportunities to the community, in particular minority business owners and women business owners. And I've been volunteering with the Puerto Rican Cultural Center, trying to help shape the organization to a point where they can be fertile ground for a lot of progress. This city, and this city really reminds me of DC in the 90s. Around the 90s, there was a big movement called Barrios Unidos. It was a movement that came out of Santa Cruz, California. And what they did out in California, and they still do it now, is they organize all the inmates and help the fathers, help the grandfathers. A lot of them were Mexican, right? They work with Latinos, but they also realize that it's more of a matter of healing the soul and the spirit, and recognizing that it doesn't have a color. You know, it's all the same. And addressing those issues. And so when I saw that as a young man around 13 or 14 working with kids, I worked at a learning center with basically Latino and African American kids in my community. After school, I'd go, I'd work with them, and I connected with them and their families. About several years down the road, I grew older and saw those kids grow older. I saw some kids want to make a change for their lives, or at least step up and consider college and things like that. Then I saw other kids, like one girl in particular, her name was Cindy. She started hanging out. She was rough to deal with. You know, I dealt with some kids at the age of 5 who were cussing out their school-age counselor and all that kind of stuff. We're like, you know, it's okay, you know. To me, it was a reflection of them trying to be grown. And I think, you know, really, like we're talking about here, African Americans and Latinos tend to have a situation where, and I've seen this in the courts, I've seen this in the detention centers, seen it in the schools, in the community. Little 5-year-olds are being treated like they're 13, or little 13-year-olds are being treated like they're 20-something, you know. And so you kind of feel this. I speak from experience. I did say I've seen it, but I've lived it myself. And then realizing that I'm thinking far. I'm putting the carriage before the horse, like ahead of the horse, thinking that I'm mature when in fact there's so much more that I need to know. That's why it was so powerful for me to hear you say that your perspective of a former, in your mind, enemy, is of value to you. And I, you know, to me that right there is like, wow, you know. I've seen I've lost people in my community. You know what I mean? I haven't grown up in Springfield, but I don't think it's any different. I think it's the exact same. You take the cookie cutter model, you take it to Texas, you take it to you know, to California, you take it to Detroit, you know, Philadelphia, all these, Chicago. I've been to a lot of these places, you know, Harlem, all that stuff. You know, it's the same. People live there. People grow up there. And I mean, I'm proud of you, man. I don't know, you know, it's right away I was like, man, you know, you survived stabbings, you survived. I mean, come on, you shouldn't even have to gone through that. That's the reality. That's what I think in my mind. It's like, that's not the ideal society. And why are we here? Why are we here after so many years? We've been dealing with this for decades, man. It pissed me off.
You're a reflection of what happens when you achieve self-awareness. There was an author some years ago in the 50s, the early 60s, named Frantz Fanon. He created a whole new school of psychology called the psychology of the oppressed. And he talked about, in essence, whatnot, you know, where Malcolm talked about it as well, where your mind goes, your behind follows or whatnot. And basically, we've been taught, like, self-hate. like, and because of various forms of that being manifested, like, we turn on each other, like, as opposed to looking outward at that which has really caused us to be, like, contained or whatnot. Instead of, like, well, we feel helpless, don't know which way to go. That's what I meant earlier when I said, like, those of us who know, like, we have an obligation to, teach those who don't know. And if people listen, they listen. If they don't, well, you can't do too much about that. But at least you are obligated to try, like, and move to the next one who will. Like,
Right.
maybe, like, you can only get to, out of 10 people, you can only get to 2. But that's better than not. And those other 8 people who didn't listen at the time, further down the road, like, when they suffer a little more from their negative, action towards themselves and others, whatnot, they say, wait a minute, like, it's that light bulb goes off. I'm in this here corner now. Now I understand what he was talking about, or what she was talking about, or what they were talking about. But if we don't attempt to keep that light of awareness, like this program, this here program is an outlet. It's a tool to put that light of understanding out there, like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of understanding that we need to liberate our minds. We need to get in touch with our God self. We need to get it. We need to understand that, like, that we are somebody. Like, self value is very important. Self esteem is very important. Many of us have been taught by a school system with teachers that don't look like us, who say, "I'm not," who oftentimes tell you that you're not capable of learning. You'll never turn out to be anybody. Sometimes you have parents who went through that. They'll turn around and reflect that same thing and tell you that, and you believe it, etc. Like, it's or your or a father would leave the home, or the mother leaves the home, and the child, as an impressionable age, they think is their fault. And but there's no grandparent around to tell them it's not your fault. To fill that in, we have an obligation, like, to always, like, understand that, this is our family. This family is part of our village, and we need to maintain it as much as possible, as often as possible, any way we can, by any civilized and constructive means necessary.
Right.
I agree.
I agree with you.
Well, Leroy, would you be willing to give us a few lyrics of some positive rap? Because that's another thing. The rap music, it has a lot to do with, too, a lot of the violence, because a lot of the rappers are telling young men and women, instructing them what to do. Go get your ratchet and go do this, and the females, it's not positive. But I understand that you do have some lyrics that you can flow. So would you like to do us?
Sure, why not?
Yo,
Yeah,
Blueprint Entertainment.
you already know.
It could be good in the hood, y'all.
True Blue.
It can be good in the hood.
Good in the hood.
It can be good in the hood.
Good up in the hood.
It can be good in the hood. It can be good in the hood.
Good up in the hood.
I'm sitting here just reminiscing on the past. Think about all the good and bad in life that I never had. For me, it's been a little struggle. So I try to avoid my troubles, but the hurt and pain that's inside of me just keep invading in my bubble. I must be going crazy. I must be out my mind to think that life is a video game, and the fact that it just wastes my time. Now all the that I'm hearing to me is irrelevant. I do things for the hell of it. I can't see what I'm doing right. Every time I seem to make it up, I just fall back down. Just trying to keep it real, cheer and feed my towns. Words doing me who cares if you can see right through me, cause I make it to the top. Your boy Ty G ain't never gonna stop.
Never gon' stop. I'm trying to make it all the way, going to the top. I'm never gonna fall. I put my hands to God. He reached out, grabbed my hand, now I'm on top. I'm always on standby. Got my boys willing to change. They up in the game, holding them things. I told them put it down because it ain't about that. Let me take you to a level. Let me cop that. Flowers for you.
Just another day in the hood for me. Trying to make $1 for my family. People hustling up and down the street. Everywhere that I see is hood life. The block is hot. Cops all around and the guns is out. People on the ground, mothers crying out. And it is what it is. It's hood life. Baby girl all grown up. And she's bad as hell, thick shown up. And she's got an attitude, cause her baby daddy left her when her son was 2. Little brother loud, daddy not around, getting stressed out, trying to hold it down. Damn, look at her now, somebody said they seen her doing lap dances cross town. If you from the hood, say, you love living good, say,